Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing and Conscious Business Zone. And I'm here today with Laura George. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So I'm very, very excited to introduce Laura's work to you because she has an amazing, amazing property called the Oracle Institute. And she has a thing called the Peace Pentagon, which I hope we get to talk about that because of Barbara Marx Hubbard's work and all of it. So Laura, tell us a little bit, how did you make this journey to start the Oracle Institute?
Well, Kathy, it's very poignant that our interview is today, September 12th, because it actually was 9/11. When 9/11 occurred, I was still relatively normal. Okay, I was in the other world, what most people call the real world. I was an attorney. I was raising 3 teens at the time. Not content with my life by any means, but not ready to make the shift. And then 9/11 happened. And what took place internally for me was that my meditations went otherworldly. And I refer to getting a download. There was a period where I got a download. It has stopped. Just so your listeners know, I went to see a shrink to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. But as
That's
part of the
download, when you would actually think of doing that, that's funny.
Well, there's a lot of mental health professionals in my family. So yeah, some people thought I had lost it. But what these messages or internal reawakenings and memories were prompting me to do was to cease being an attorney, turn my passion, which is religion, and was a hobby, if you can call religion a hobby, into my life's work. And then we started the Oracle Institute. So initially, Oracle's mission was very much interfaith, multi-faith. We had a president at the time who was using the term crusade. And for your listeners who are into history, that's a really scary term for the Muslim world. I'm also a 9/11 truther. Knew right away that we weren't getting the real story. Somehow the 9/11 Commission was able to wipe Tower 7 out of our minds by not including it in the official report. So anyway, my life took a serious turn, and I decided to totally invest in this journey. So today, we officially started in 2004. So today, 15 years later, we have a campus, a beautiful campus in a town called Independence, Virginia. It's along the New River, which I always like to let people know is the oldest river in the Western Hemisphere, for sure.
Wow.
And possibly the oldest river in the world.
Why did they call it the New River? Or who
exactly. You want to know what the history on that is not even settled, because some people say it was Thomas Jefferson's father who found it. He was a surveyor as well. So some people say it was new to him. Some people say there was a surveyor named, I think it was John New. His last name was New. And anyway, yeah, these were the hunting and fishing grounds of the Cherokee and 4 other tribes. So I'm in a very sacred region of the world, also known as the Virginia Highlands, because the Scotch-Irish settled this region. It looks like Scotland. I'm only 20 minutes from the highest point in Virginia, which is called Mount Rogers, and it's at 6,000 feet. So I'm in the mountains along the New River, and could not have selected a more holistic setting for the Oracle Institute campus.
Wow. Well, I want you to know that Olivia's on here, and I was lucky. I got to meet Laura because I was at an event where the Koji Indians came to it was the first time, I think, some of those beings, which I have to call them beings because they were so otherworldly, some of them.
Yes.
Really, where they had, I don't know how someone coerced them to get on an airplane and fly somewhere, because I'm sure that had to have been a shocking experience. But basically they came to the US and they stopped at Oracle. Started at Oracle. Well, how did you get them to come?
It's a really good story, which I'll be brief. Ken Kitatani, who runs Form 21 Institute in New York, and he's also one of the directors at the United Nations for the Spiritual and Religious Committee, had this trip planned, and we had been recently introduced to one another, and I said, hey, I would love for them to come here, and I made the pitch. I said, oldest river in the world. They love they love this, the mountain. So anyway, it was actually the first stop.
Yeah.
They came here first. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Kogi people, basically for 500 years, they hid on their sacred mountain. When the Spanish conquistadors came in the 1500s for gold and plundering, this tribe ran up their sacred mountain. So, I mean, just imagine, these people had no idea who Jesus was, Buddha, any of this, completely secluded for nearly 500 years. As a result, they're exceedingly attuned to Aluna, which that is their word for not just Mother Earth, but Mother Sky, the goddess. They're what we call at Oracle a second paradigm people. The second paradigm was goddess worship, which lasted the longest on this planet. So these people are still in that paradigm. They didn't move on to polytheism. They didn't move on to male monotheism. They're amazing. It's an amazing culture. So yeah, it was a great honor for them to come here.
Well, what was so interesting is last night I stopped. I just happened upon a Drumvilla Melchizedek presentation that he had done at the Whole Life Expo last year in LA, and he had gone to see the Koji in their native area and had learned some of their metaphysical tricks, so mystical tricks. It was like, oh my gosh, it's showing up. Isn't that cool? I love those kind of synchronicities. So tell me, as far as what the Oracle Institute does you teach classes, and what is its purpose? What is its mission?
Okay, so from its early beginnings after 9/11, where the focus was almost exclusively interfaith, we have branched out a lot over the intervening years. So you're right, we have a spirituality school, which ranges from classes for fundamentalist thinkers to mystery school level curricula. So we do that in the spirituality school. We also have a publishing house where we don't publish a lot of books. We've published under a dozen books, but we've won 6 book awards. So we're exceedingly selective, but our authors are amazing. Patricia Albert is one of our authors, Evolutionary Collective. Yuval Ron is one of our authors. He's known as the Peace Musician. Valerie Tirico, who is a top journalist, top 10 blogger in the US. So just really high quality authors. Then we also have a church called Oracle Temple.
Oh.
And we have a monthly, we call them spirituality salons. And we sort of bogarted that term from the Ken Wilber salons that I used to attend when I lived outside the Washington, D.C. area. So we're huge fans of spiral dynamics and integral theory. And our salons tend to be pretty elevated conversations.
Yes.
What else? We have a community now called the Valley of Light.
Oh.
So for those of your listeners who are familiar with the work of Barbara Marx Hubbard and the Federation of Damanhur in Italy, Barbara and Damanhur, they're our muse, they're our model, they're our inspiration for the Valley of Light. And we can go into that a little bit more because we're actively recruiting right now for the community.
Oh, wonderful.
But it is
Sunrise Ranch, and then you brought the Koji to Sunrise Ranch, which is another one of the communities. So there's only a handful of them that I think that have been successful in the whole country. So that is so wonderful. So so as far as your mission, though, is your mission to help people wake up to their divinity and live in peace? Is that because the peace pentagon,
right.
obviously?
Right. So the Peace Pentagon, I'm going to answer those questions out of order. The
Okay.
Peace Pentagon is under construction. It is about halfway built. It
Oh.
is our headquarters. It's our temple. For those who are familiar with Damanhur, you'll know that what they build at Damanhur, they're both temples and tools. So we believe in metaphysical abilities, and that structure is a pentagon. There's a chapel inside, which is a pentagon. So it's a pentagon inside of a pentagon. And there's a reason the war pentagon is a pentagon. Okay, so the sacred geometry has specific meaning and power. The mission. The mission has not morphed, it has refined itself to include peace building work, because interfaith and peace building work are so interconnected, intertwined. Yes, we have classes for those who are working on their own personal ascension, but because we are in a breach birth right now for the next paradigm, we are in triage mode.
Oh, I see.
Those light workers who understand what is at stake, the very future of this planet and all life on it is at stake. So I'm going to refer to some of Barbara's terminology, because she was not fearful of using military metaphors.
Right.
We are in a war. The Peace Pentagon is a fort. We have got to realize, those of us who are on Team Light, that there is an enemy. The New Age belief system that evil is either an illusion or judgment or something so fearful that they project it onto others who wish to talk about it. I often get called fear-based. Those days are over. The New Age community, anyone who is on the spectrum, knows the spectrum, anyone who is stage 6 and up, stage 6 is the New Age meme, needs to get really busy. One reason why we love Damanhur, they have a one-word motto, one-word mission. That word is action.
Mm-hmm.
The days of burning incense and I call it spiritual masturbation are over for those of us who are serious about the future.
Well, it's actually showing up as a being as you're doing. That's
bingo. I was just going to say that this whole I'm a human being, not a human doing. Well, you want to know what that's done? That's caused us to lose years of needed organization, teamwork, promoting progressive values, electing the correct people, at multiple levels of government. And those days are over. I've been privy to some intercommunications among heroes who, if I listed, your listeners would know all of these people.
Uh-huh.
And they are admitting to themselves they have created an army of narcissists, not an army of activists. So back to the Oracle mission.
Wow.
We have been aware of this for a while, and I knew that there would come a time in our mission, not where it was necessarily, I wouldn't use the term bifurcated, but refined. For the first decade, we absolutely worked on assisting others and being on this journey ourselves. I'm not claiming any omniscience here, but assisting others to awaken to their highest self. Now, as I say, I think the planet is in triage mode.
Right.
And so we are expressing a more urgent message with regard to our own mission. And we are seeking people who can handle the truth and inviting them to join us at this campus.
Okay. And so, but is when I think of an institute, I usually do think of a educational institute. I think of either whether it's an online or in person,
Mm-hmm.
and you have these beautiful grounds. Do you have people come and do workshops for the weekends or for a week long?
Yes, absolutely. The campus is open to the public, and we have curriculums that prior to every year. You can go on our website, you can see what we're offering. Our next retreat, as an example, is called Discerning Truth in a Post-Truth World.
Wow.
Because people's truth barometers have been so screwed with, people don't even know what's true anymore.
Right.
So, and that's not atypical for us, though that's what we're trending toward, retreats like that. We also did a retreat called Beyond Nationalism. So we're trying to get people more active in the sacred activism sort of mindset. But we also do really fun stuff. Damanhur comes once a year. We do past lives courses with an amazing ambassador from Damanhur named Shama Viola.
Uh-huh.
PMH Atwater is coming next month. PMH is arguably the leading near-death experience expert on the planet.
I just was with her in Philadelphia at the IONS group. I was just teaching at that event, at that conference in Philadelphia.
So yeah, we mix it up. We try to provide programming that will appeal to people on different levels of the spectrum. So yes, the Oracle Institute technically is a 501c3 educational charity.
Okay.
We fancy ourselves a spiritual think tank. I don't know if anyone else has ever used that term before, but we watch what's going on globally. Absolutely. We look at religious trends. We look at millennial trends in the US. We're watching everything because the state of current events on the planet is such that we may need to turn on a dime. One of Barbara's dreams, which did not fully manifest before her passing, was the Office for the Future project.
Right.
So the Peace Pentagon, in addition to being a physical space, was intended to be prototyped as one of the hubs.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So her vision was that there would be both these online synergistic networking type hubs plus physical space for actual on the ground training, and honored us by calling the Peace Pentagon the Peace Room she had always envisioned. The Peace Room, as sophisticated as a war room. I'm sure your listeners have heard her riff on that. I mean,
let's go deeper with that, because I think that's where, because Laura, what I want to stress is that this is very heady, what you're talking about, like the Oracle, or excuse me, integral, a lot of that, but this really is the heart work. This is, even though we're speaking intelligently about it, it really is about opening up the heart and using the heart, well, connecting all the.
It's all chakras. It's all chakras.
For those of the listeners, because this will go out to people that know Barbara Marx Hubbard and don't know Barbara Marx Hubbard's work, would you be willing to go deeper a little bit with that, so they understand? Because I was lucky. I got to be with her on her 85th birthday. I got to be with her several times. She never remembered my name, but that's okay. And I read all her books, and I go to Co-Creators Convergence every year. I went for my 6th year this last year. So I am very aware of Barbara Marx Hubbard. For the listeners, was a futurist.
Yes.
Who actually had a privileged life growing up, where she was around presidents and other high-level politicians, powerful men.
Yes.
And, but she was never afraid to ask the questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to you if you want.
Sure. Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Barbara at a conference that we co-sponsored in Virginia. It was called the Building the New World Conference.
Perfect.
And we used her wheel. Our wheel of co-creation, and we had outrageously cool speakers. I mean, thought leaders in each one of those sectors. That's how the conference was structured. It was one of those conferences where it was painful to pick which event you were going to attend, because each one of these speakers were at the top of their game. So Barbara and Charles Eisenstein were sort of the keynote speakers, the overarching guests of honor. And that is when I think for the first time she decided to really put energy into the Office for the Future project. It had been sort of, bubbling in her brain and in her heart for years. So a group of us afterward peeled off, and we worked on this project for about a year. And just like that conference, the goal was to take the wheel of co-creation and set up a platform, an online platform, where thought leaders and students too, in each of those sectors would start to cross-collaborate, because it's a systems theory approach. It's a Buckminster-Fuller systems theory approach to building the new world. So in other words, anyone in any of those pie slices, of course, is doing phenomenal work, important work. But if you're only paying attention to your piece of that pie chart, you're working in a silo. You're working in a silo. You're probably only going to be able to experience linear growth. Whereas if we cross network with one another in a synergistic manner, exponential growth.
Right.
So what she saw as a futurist was that what we need now is exponential growth. We are at a tipping point for the planet, for culture, for basically every system on the planet is in jeopardy right now. So given the level of complexity, and for those of you who are into like complexity model and how change occurs, she realized that the only way to get us through this stage of human evolution is to create, basically to simplify the complexity by creating these hubs, these networks where people could tap in, understand what's happening at a very, not just intellectual level, but a heart level, and then become sacred activists, back to action. So we got pretty far along, and the Peace Pentagon was up to a point prototype. So there's a website called peacepentagon.net.
Oh, okay.
And it's still identified as a hub. And there's a lot of Barbara's history on there, Buckminster Fuller. So that was the goal. It's interesting to note that Irvin Laszlo was doing the exact same thing in Europe. So there was also some cross collaboration. Barbara was sort of spearheading a group in the US. Laszlo was spearheading a group in Europe. I think their group is taking off. Like it's the new map. A lot of the new map programmers were working on what they were calling the next generation of the internet. So there was a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Well, I think the internet is the next, that is the change agent that's going to save us, because it's the stepping stone to telepathy and the access to information where you don't have to have it all here. It's in the field, it's in the field, accessible from the field or on your computer. And I think it's like training wheels. So that's the good news. Well, the other thing I want the audience to know is that Barbara's wheel co-creation had 12 slices in it. So there are all different aspects of culture, science, education. It also had the arts. So it was a more like what they were trying to do with Integral, where he was looking at history with a more holistic view, rather than this person won this war, so this is what's next.
Right.
So there's been these incredible, brilliant thinkers that have brought these new aspects of looking at reality with a much more, as the observer, in a much more wide way, so that you can make better choices. Because when you're only given the binary choice, that's what you get. You get more of that. But when you get this other, which is an interweaving of different, and it's a highly respectful way of working in team, because when you see that everyone has a different propensity, their gift is in different areas, and you identify it and integrate it into the whole, you get so much better results.
Yeah, you hit upon a few of the important goals of the project. So One of them is to honor people who are working in each sector, acknowledging that each sector is interdependent on the other, so therefore critical. The other piece that you touched on was the organization of it, in the sense that if we get to know one another, Team Light gets organized. Barbara and I had some private conversations while she was here at our campus, and she and I both were of the opinion that the only reason Team Light is behind is because Team Dark is more organized.
Right.
So part of the New Age phenomenon and mindset is that it's very difficult to get people focused on one topic at a time. People say it's like herding cats. Everybody has a passion, everybody has a gift that they wish to share. And the leadership model, even holistic, natural leadership, is seen as negative. So there are no spokespeople for the movement. So a good example is what happened with Occupy. Occupy movement lost its steam, even though it was a worldwide movement, because they literally refused to identify a spokesperson or a team of people to go on TV and speak for them. That's a level 6, stage 6 tendency, is to want to sit in circle past the point at which it's productive.
I see.
So second tier on the spectrum chart, those are people who start to recognize again that they see the complexity. They are systems thinkers. So one of the goals amongst these higher level thinkers that I was describing earlier, who are going, oh, mamma mia, we've created an army of narcissists, not activists, is acknowledging that while the New Age meme is the fastest growing meme in the US, which is the good news. It's freaking fantastic, right? Yeah. I mean, people are leaving, not just fundamentalism, because that's happening way more slowly. There's a huge God gap, but people are leaving orthodoxy and they're moving into a comfort level with exploring the cosmos, God, with fresh eyes. So that's the good news. Millennials come in that way. The bad news is, until we get enough people on a systems level, wavelength, we're not going to get Team Light organized to the point where we can present a cohesive front in what I do view as a war. I mean, what's happening in the United States is just a perfect microcosm of what's happening globally. It's happening in Europe too.
So obvious. There's people. Well, I want to interject something. You mentioned Ernest Laszlo, and I met Alexander, his son, who lives in Argentina, because I helped do a project here that was for the International Society for System Scientists.
Mm-hmm.
You might be, that might be a good partnership with you, because they're the ones that put the systems together so that you can implement it. And Alexander, Ernest Laszlo's son, he was past president.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 60 or more. I think the one that was here in Boulder was his 60th. So they probably are in their 63rd convention. So they have a year, and people come from all over the world, and it's brilliant. So that might be a resource for you or partner, because that's the missing piece, is how do you get from the vision of the future, like Barbara. Barbara was a great futurist and had incredible ideas, but somebody had to track the way.
Yes. We all know we want to get to point Z. I mean, progressives, pluralists pretty much share a very beautiful vision. I mean, we can sit in circle, describe it, and all be like, All right, so it's how do we get there on a practical level? That's what's been missing, and that's what the Hub Project was intended to surmount that challenge. So yes, we're still on it. We are a think tank. We're still percolating ideas. What we're doing right now, and I'm going to put the shout out here, we're looking for second tier humans, cultural creatives, people who know why they're here, know that they came in at this particular time, at this particular juncture to help save the world. It's that huge. So we're looking for people who know that about themselves, because what we want to do is build a full spectrum community around the wheel. So we want to have people on campus who are thought leaders in each sector. The other piece of that is that a full spectrum community mimics everything a small town would have. I mean, that was part of the wheel. Those 12, we have our pie chart's got 11 in it, but those 12 slices are what you would find in a city. So there's like media, education, health. It's all the things we would think of as what a civilized society should have.
Right.
To my knowledge, there is only one full spectrum community on the planet, and that's Damanhur.
Oh, huh.
Okay, so you can go around like Sunrise Ranch or Twin Oaks or some of the really good examples of community in the United States, and they may have a few of those sectors covered. They might have some micro businesses, they might have a daily paper, they might be educating their children, but to my knowledge, there is, not only is there no full spectrum community in the United States, Damanhur is the only one in the world.
Wow.
So that's why we study them. And Falco is now passed too. He was the founder. Right. He made it clear that unless a city of light, that's what Damanhur means, city of light, unless a city of light is built on each continent as a model, as a template to be replicated, we will have a do-over. So what we believe is that the Valley of Light in Independence, Virginia is the one for the United States.
Wonderful.
And I just claim I found the right place. Without the right people, it ain't going to happen. So I'm putting that out there, an SOS to the brothers and sisters in the Soul Group who came in to help save this place.
Right. Perfect. Olivia asked on here, ask her how she found her property if you feel inspired. It's an amazing story. Do you want to share that? I mean, I've been putting your website up so that people know to look at it. I don't know if you want to talk about your fundraiser for the roof.
Yeah. All right. Well, quickly, Olivia knows the long version of the story. It was exceedingly mystical. I had received, this was during my download phase. So I had received the message to build a physical school. And I'm really name centric. So I gotten a map of the US out, and I was convinced it was out west because I saw the Virgin River and Mount Zion. I'm like, whoa. All right. So I go out there, and then was year 7 of the drought. Virgin River was totally dried up. So I come home with my tail between my legs going, where do I do this? And the way I ended up here was a friend. He says it was not a dream. He says he was visited by an angel and they went flying together. And the angel said, I'm going to tell you where Laura's school is going to be. So they start flying and they fly and they get in the mountains. And my friend is looking down going, wow, are we getting close? And the angel says a little bit further. They turn a corner and he looks down, there's a river. And I knew it was on a river. So my friend says, oh, is this it? Is this the river? And the angel says, yes. And they turn another corner. And my friend goes, oh my God, this is my grandfather's farm in Independence, Virginia. And the angel said, yes, take Laura to Independence and tell her that's where the school should be. So he comes to my house to tell me this. I'm like, where's Independence, Virginia? Never heard of it. So it was very mystical how I got here. Amazing. That was a period in my life when I was in high synchronicity. Desmond Tutu talks about that. It's the little chocolates, the little sweets that God gives us to help us wake up, remember why we're here. So there was a phase during which I was gifted with many sweets, so many beautiful, amazing synchronicities. And then, I mean, they never stops, but once you get the message, it stops enough so that you get to work.
Right.
24/7, you'd be in this state of bliss going, oh my God. So yeah, it's a cool story. And then what was the other piece? Oh, the skylight. Yes. So what we're doing right now, we're putting the skylight on the top of the Pentagon. So back to it being both a temple and a tool, our headquarters as well. This is the apex, just like the Great Pyramid had a capstone. This is a pentagonal skylight that takes the shape of the roof, completes it, is over the center of the sacred space. We just brought in 100-pound I shouldn't maybe announce this, but a very nice stone that's directly underneath, charging the area. We're going to be doing ceremony this Saturday, light work in preparation for the skylight, but we're about $10,000 short. So anybody who can contribute to the fundraiser, which is a mighty cause, we would be so grateful.
So when we're done, we'll put the link here in the comments so they don't have to search too hard. And so that we could do that. I wanted to share a little bit more about the Peace Pentagon and Barbara Marx Hubbard's part. Barbara Marx Hubbard went as a young girl, I think she was 12 or 14 years old, and met with Dwight D. Eisenhower while he was the president. Yeah. And it was right after we had dropped the bomb, and she said, now that something like this, I'm totally paraphrasing, so excuse me if I mess it up, but she said, now that we have power to destroy like that, what do we have for good? And he couldn't answer. And because of probably his background as being military and his position, here's this young girl, impressionable girl, and he didn't have an answer. So she made it her quest that if we had a war Pentagon, that we should have a peace Pentagon. And in 1982, she was at the Democratic National Convention. She was vying to be a nominee for the vice president spot with Walter Mondale, which she did not get it. But very much like Marianne Williamson, she let out a cry about what humanity really needed to think about. And it was amazing. The room got pretty quiet. They let her speak. I don't know. I mean, I've watched it again and again. It's remarkable. And so when you named your Pentagon, the Peace Pentagon, and the other part of the story, Barbara Marx Hubbard did pass at the beginning of this year, but the UN did honor her with creating a peace. It's not the Peace Pentagon, but it's a Peace Council, and she was honored on it, and she was part of the inspiration for it. So she did get part of her dream, like, I got one.
She did.
So
yeah, she did. I accompanied her on one of those trips, and she was getting traction at the United Nations. This is so sad. She really was. And that was part of the Office for the Future Planning. She was hoping there would be an Office for the Future at the United Nations. She was hoping that there would be regional hubs. So that's what ours was going to be, a regional hub. She was amazing. And I asked her when she was here, because she shared that she had been given the same message, like you just said, that she was supposed to build a peace room. And I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you do it? And she said, because I knew you would be here.
Wow.
She was really, I cried. I do believe, to a large measure, I picked up on the same wavelength, the message. And it's not to say that others haven't as well. That tends to happen. And by the way, Team Dark can pick up on these messages as well. But I really do believe that we've inherited that piece of Barbara's mission, the piece to physically manifest a peace room as sophisticated as a war room. And
isn't that cool, you guys? I hope everyone will really follow what you're doing, Laura. It is so cool. And the idea that rather than people just complaining and whining about what a mess the baby boomers have made of everything, there is an opportunity to join in and leave a legacy that's totally different. There's a lot of people doing beautiful work out there that are not visible, that could really benefit from joining a group like yours, Laura, where they may not have the asset of knowing how to market or knowing how to connect, but they have tremendous gifts that are part of our evolution of our species. I mean, that's what this is. We're creating a new human.
Yes.
And it's not just by birth, it's by consciousness and the access. This may be the first time in history anywhere in the galaxy that humans have ascended embodied. And so there's an opportunity for all of this amazing, powerful energy to be harnessed for good and used. Yep.
Yeah, Barbara talked about the new human. Falco talked about us being a bridge species. You know, we're already in the transhuman era, to get pretty serious again for a moment. In our lifetime, for certain, we will see enhanced humans.
Right.
There's also a period that futurists are predicting, which will be a post-human era. There are so many ethical considerations, assuming we even make it through this breech birth we're in right now, assuming we make it through all of the challenges we're facing. That's potentially the ultimate challenge, is do we want to become non-human? Do we want consciousness transfer? So it has actually split the futurist community. MIT has the Future for Humanity Institute. They're being called Luddites. Even though they're futurists, they're being called Luddites by the other futurists who say, let's go for it. You stop worrying. You're worrying too much. Let's just keep, with all the testing and the manifesting of robotic abilities and AI. So we are ill prepared as a species to not only handle the immediate problems on the ground, but these ethical issues that are coming up. It will be a minor miracle or a major miracle if humans are still here and this planet is still intact in 100 years.
See, I
said we would not make it. The smartest guy on the planet said we were not going to make it. Now,
I think we're going to have to change. But that's what you're offering is all the pieces of the puzzle so that you can make better choices on how to change, because that's the reason the human's been here so long, is we're adaptable.
We actually haven't, Kathy, we haven't been here that long. Oh. We're in the 6th great extinction right now. Humans weren't on the planet during the first 5. So this would be the first extinction event that we lived through or not. We have not been here very long. This could be an experiment that was, maybe God intended it to fail. I know people who say no big deal if the human spark goes out. But I know my mission and the mission of the Oracle Institute is to help ensure that does not happen. There is something so important about humanity and where we've evolved thus far.
Yes.
It would be a catastrophe of multi-dimensional proportions if we, say, had World War III and destroyed this planet and ourselves.
Right.
Multi-dimensional ramifications, which I don't claim to fully understand, and yet I know it's true.
Right. Wow. Well, if you listen to Todd Medina for Soulology, he says the human is the hero. And so that's what we're or heroine, as the case may be. But but I think that's what it's time to step up, put on your hiking shoes, and be the hero. Go and walk your talk. With kindness in your heart. Lead the way.
Now is the time.
Call in the light. I actually think that Drumbelow in that thing even said, be very careful when you're calling in the energies. Be very careful. You have to make sure, because everything has power. It's not just the yin and yang. It's Yeah.
I have to tell you, well, first off, the time is now and we are the ones.
Right.
That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, it is confusing. People are reaching mystical states that in the past only the great mystics could reach. I mean, there's a lot going on in the ethereal plane. So I want to leave your listeners with this thought. When in doubt, either go Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. Pick your favorite archetypal, because they're almost identical, but pick your favorite of those two storylines, because when in doubt, realize the Force absolutely can be used for evil. There are dark lords walking the planet. For me anyway, it helps me put the mission in perspective, that the stakes are very high. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Right.
And that's barking. I hope you can't hear that.
You can, but it's okay. It adds a little country flavor to the whole thing. Well, we'll have to have more conversations, because I'm feeling like fifth dimensional, this paradigm that we're going to is more fifth dimensional, and polarity, which is dark, evil, and love as the two sides of the teeter-totter. It stays in fourth dimension, and in fifth dimension we're more fifth and higher, we're more living in love. So that's where I'd love to have some more conversation about this, so that I could get your feedback on that, because that's
totally agree, which is one reason why the building has 5 sides. We're moving into the fifth paradigm, fifth dimensional energy. There's a lot about 5, which all the mystics talked about. Walter Russell, Madame Blavatsky, Edgar Casey, they were all talking about this fifth wave, and we're in it right now, and we need to anchor it. We got to anchor it. So back to the Pentagon, and the skylight. Help us anchor it, please.
Okay. Well, Laura, thank you so much. This was delightful, and thank you so much for the work you're doing in the world. And I hope all of my listeners will take the time to go to the website, see what's going on, see about the Peace Pentagon. Just start feeling it out, because once you know this exists, I don't think everyone's aware of this beautiful work you're doing. And once they do, there may be a whole bunch of new volunteers that show up that want to play, because this is the difference also, is that this isn't work, this is play, this is life force flowing through you from a much higher place, working through your hands and feet. So anyway, so thank you so much.
Thank you. It was delightful. Thank you so much.
Talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.